Hey, good morning there, friends, students, teachers. This is some ways a continuation of my very last video, which told a compelling story in the beginning about something, and then we were eyeballing some Python. But jumping ahead, what I'm really going to talk about is more about the state of the art in terms of propagating the synergetic stuff. And Casey House just got off the line with us at the TrimTab Book Club, where he gave an excellent presentation of his emerging textbook. And then there's also free resources. Under the resources, you can find free vector graphics for your use as a synergetics teacher yourself. Remember, you can come to this from many different directions. We were talking about farming and agriculture in our meetup because some of us have farming experience. It's like it's not a given how you have to approach synergetics. And Casey's done it with his talents as a graphic artist. So he's made beautiful infographics. One in particular, shout out to David Koski. We talked about your work a little bit also in the chat that was going on. This was a Zoom meetup. This was kind of the beginning of Koski's work, and then he became familiar with synergetics, right? He was already fascinated with phi, and then came the T module and the E module, something we talk about. But now let me jump back. Now that you've seen a bit of a preview, let me triangulate myself. Last issue or channel episode, we talked about subgenius a little bit, and I'm definitely, I would say, a sub-genius, right? So I'm going to let that ride for now. If you think I'm a genius, you don't get my religious affiliation, right? Sub-genius. We hang out, though. A lot of us are polymaths. It was kind of a nerd religion in a way for bored privileged youth, you could say, but that sounds like I'm casting aspersions. Whereas instead, I'm actually a proud member of the Church of Subgenius. It has some links to the Discordians, and I usually bring these things up because of their value when you want to mine history and have some good graph database vectors into knowledge. Like Discordians is not a stupid way to go in terms of Kerry Thornley, Robert Anton Wilson, so on. But what I'm doing here is pinning at the top of my Quora answers, which I religiously keep up on, helping people with Python mostly, right? But someone asked what math topics should be taught in school before the college level that currently aren't. And I take this opportunity to review some of the literature that we go through in my channel. Now let me reorient you again. Okay, wait, there's another bio of me if you want. This academia is easy to find anyway. kirbyearner.academia.edu. Quick bio, I will not even read it. So, heuristics for teachers, digital mathematics, heuristics for teachers. I've done whole chains of videos entitled Heuristics for Teachers, but it's 4 ways of looking at mathematical topics in commerce, or excuse me, mathematical topics including commerce. And you would expect with a name like supermarket math that we're dealing with commerce here, but actually we have casino math also, which has a lot of geographic significance here. In my neck of the woods, we have a lot of casinos, but those are not what you'd want maybe as your flagship topic, and yet you still want to talk about statistics and games, risk management, probability. This whole world of data science goes from notions of random versus ordered, looking for order versus random noise. How do you tell when you found order, right? What statistical rules can you apply? But in supermarket math, we're going to look at code like this, back to Python. Now, I'm not a supermarket expert, and it's more suggestive that I would write a story in Python about a supermarket with a buy method where a shopper comes through. Here I'm initializing a shopper. He's got a, or she's got a, or they've got a, whatever. I should put the pronoun in here. Actually, right where I'm at. Can I do that? I could say self pronoun equals, and I'll just leave it empty and I'll put a comment there. Help people think about that topic. But the main thing is, what if I try to spend more money that's in my wallet, or what if I try to buy something that's not in the inventory, things like that? What if we run out, out of stock? And I introduced Python's exception handling syntax and methods, right? It's keywords around trying something. I'm going to try buying a bunch of stuff, but an exception is going to get triggered. Perhaps a no money, perhaps an out of stock. And if nothing bad happens, or if things go smoothly, we could put it, I'll be transferred into the else block or else suite. So again, tell a story that's got cohesive power based on people's ordinary experience. I live but blocks away from Fred Meyer's. Fred Meyer was a Rosicrucian, I believe. That's been coming up recently. Concepts of, around the subgenius, what's their art like, and what are the precedents, and at the time, certain cults seem disruptive, right? It's not like they all have a smooth acceptance trajectory, right? And the same for synergetics. It's looked at as a cult by a lot of people, partly because the art is just prettier than a lot of people have, and they feel threatened and they want to shut it down, right? That which I do not understand must not obtrude, must not become a part of my reality. But we can't, any of us, really police reality to that extent. We have to go with the flow if we know what's good for us. And Casey has a breakthrough here in terms of his artistic style, and I'm really pleased about that. We also talked during this meetup of the TrimTab Book Club about the disposition of the various archives regarding the Bucky stuff. There's a new one that I mentioned earlier on this channel at Oregon State University. I believe you can access it through the same Doug Strain reading room as you access the Linus Pauling Ava Helen collection. If I'm wrong about that, somebody let me know in the comments maybe. Also, there's quite a bit that you can find in academia.edu about the Bucky stuff. So this paper I've been talking about a little bit previous YouTubes. I think it doesn't bring up one of what I'd call Fuller's avatars, which is the aspect of Cold Warrior, especially the image of the Bucky Pavilion right opposite the USSR Pavilion in Montreal. There are some photographs that capture them both. And I think this is where Bucky goes in his mind when he writes certain things in Critical Path about the rivalry, almost it sounds like, between himself personally and the whole of the USSR. And in a way, yeah, he's the capitalist who can really be the personal hero, right? That's what we allow the freedom the individual has to, like, be a hero, right? So Bucky, it's not like he's against the USSR either. In fact, he's giving them everything except, but for his greatness, it's all going to work out. It's like they win, but thanks to me, it doesn't matter. Something like that. Go read Critical Path. Excellent book. Casey mentioned it too as one of his faves. It's got some speculative prehistory that at least is consistent with some boat rocking that's gone on in recent archaeology. We don't any longer believe that the land bridge is the only way that humans ever got from the eastern hemisphere to the west, right? That's not considered even the first way anymore, is my understanding. We've got all the way back to the Ice Age connections to, last major Ice Age connections to Pacific peoples in the Americas, right? And basically Asia hasn't just come into being. And that's kind of a critical path view of history. It tells the story going east to west instead of west to east. It's more consistent in terms of direction than a lot of them. And, you know, you can take it or leave it, but it gives you a sense of the grain with which Bucky worked. In other words, when he's carving out his worldview, he's definitely kind of going from Asia to Europe and not vice versa. So I wouldn't call him a neo-colonialist, or when I call him a Cold Warrior, I think, you know, he's not stereotypically a Cold Warrior. He's an interesting Cold Warrior. I think he literally means cold a lot, cryogenic in other words. Now what I'm scrolling here into is the 52 Living Ideas channel because I'm going to wind up my comments here. What I'm really interested in is how these groups that have especially grown up since COVID all can overlap now. Like we've got Meetup here, Meetup there. They may or may not be listed formally on meetup.com. A lot of them are. Wanderers is not. Wanderers is the group that used to meet in the boyhood home of Linus Pauling here in Portland, just blocks from me, but has taken to Zoom like the others. And so 52 Living Ideas and Thinking Society of Greater Philadelphia sometimes overlap, and they had a very Bucky intensive topic led by CJ Fernley the other day, and he was on our TrimTab call as well, as was Peter Meisen of Geni, Geni, look it up. There again, critical path, how our relationship with Russia, our being, I don't know, Americans. You know, what about the grids? What about long-term energy considerations? Collaboration is the name of the game. Really, you're not high-ranking if you're not on that team of making things work going forward. You're sort of self-disqualifying. And you sort of like drop in rank because you drop in relevance. Nobody has to come up to you and tell you that. It's just like, are you playing world game effectively at whatever level, right? It's not like we all have to or must take on just a few roles that someone else has carved out. I'm working on citizen diplomacy myself, in different shapes than we've seen in the past, but it's not like I'm trying to dictate how it's got to go. I certainly am more hands off than that. All right. Had a great time today. Thank you, Casey. That's going to really help. Talk to y'all soon.